Hello everyone, and welcome to this newest edition of the Mazza's Musings podcast. I got to tell you, this is an exciting episode for me, largely because there have been episodes that I've done in the past where I have reached out to the listeners and reached out to the social media sphere for input when I've had questions and topics that I wanted some feedback on. And this by far was the most response that I've gotten to one of those so far. Now, for some background on what this edition is going to be all about, last week I did a podcast with Matt Conway talking about Disney movies, and we did a Disney movie bracket that I'd put together. And in a couple of instances, Matt talked a lot about the soundtrack and how that helped elevate the movie. We talked a lot about The Incredibles and what that unique soundtrack did to really bring that movie to life. Then I got to thinking about movies that aren't necessarily that great, but still have some really great music. So with that, I put it to you guys, asked you what you thought and what came to mind when you thought about movies that had great soundtracks that weren't necessarily great movies. It's a really interesting list that you guys put together. I also throw in some of my own at the end. I think it's going to be a fun listen, so here we go. Well, like I said in the intro, this is all about the movies that are not necessarily great movies, mediocre, maybe even some bad movies that still had some great music and some great soundtracks. Now, I've kind of broken this up into two categories. There's one that is great soundtracks, and then there's another that have movies that have great songs, individual songs that identify with that movie, as good or bad as that movie may be. But the music has remained iconic one way or the other. So I'm going to start off with the soundtracks, and I'm going to start off with the ones that you guys nominated, and then I'm going to throw a few of my own in at the end. Then I'm going to move on to the songs, and we'll go through that list as well of some of the songs that you guys put out there, and a couple of mine as well. So something else that's interesting about this list is it really encompasses a few different decades. And actually the first movie that we have here is A Star is Born, which was a recent movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. It's a movie I've never seen. And when this was nominated, I actually asked for clarification as to whether or not they were looking for just that one song that's been on the radio or the entire album. And the person who nominated that said, actually, the rest of the album is better than the song that's on the radio. So we're kicking off this list with A Star is Born. We'll start off with Shallow, which is the song that's on the radio all the time for a while there. And then there are some other songs that appear throughout the movie, apparently, that I took a listen to and was just like, oh yeah, this is actually a pretty solid soundtrack.
I'm of the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow. In the shallow, we're far from the shallow now. Black eyes open wide, it's time to testify. There's no room for lies and everyone's waiting for you. Then I'm gone sitting by the phone and I'm all alone by the wayside. Me to your paradise on a musical ride. I'm in love with your music, baby.
So this next nominee came from a friend on the social media site Threads, which is Meta's version of Twitter, or X, essentially. And this is actually a double dip. They said that the combination of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin deserve a place in the Hall of Fame for this, based on the number of quality songs and artists on the soundtrack for what were some really forgettable movies. Now, probably the most memorable song off of these soundtracks is Kiss from a Rose by Seal. And moving on, now remember, Brandy was a big thing at the time when this movie, as Batman Forever, was coming out. And so, Where Are You Now by Brandy.
How could you just be so cold? What a hard and heavy blow. Now I'm lying here, alone on the floor.
And for Batman Forever, they also snuck in some Flaming Lips with Bad Days. Now, Batman and Robin really wasn't quite as strong, but they did get some Bone Thugs and Harmony in there with Look Into My Eyes.
To my eyes and tell me what it is you see. Into my eyes, look into my eyes and tell me what it is you see.
Also big during the time that the movie came out was Jewel with Foolish Games.
These foolish games are tearing me apart, and your thoughtless words are breaking my heart, breaking my.
Another band that was still big at the time was the Goo Goo Dolls, and they had one of their lesser known songs on the album, Lazy Eye. Now, this next nomination came from a friend who sent me the nomination on Facebook, and I gotta say, this is an example of a movie sequel trying to follow up an iconic movie and just falling flat on its face. But they were absolutely right that this was an album that just has hit after hit after hit, and that's the soundtrack to My Girl 2. I mean, this has Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young with Our House.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you.
And after that, you've got Baby Love by the Supremes.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you. But all you do is treat me bad, break my heart and leave me sad. Tell me, what did I do wrong to make you stay away so long? 'Cause baby love.
Elton John is in there with Tiny Dancer.
Hold me closer, time to dance.
Jackson Browne made the soundtrack with Doctor My Eyes.
Doctor, my eyes, tell me what you see. I hear their cries. Just say if it's too late for me.
There's some Beach Boys with Don't Worry Baby.
And makes me realize when she said, don't worry, baby, everything will turn out alright. Don't worry, baby.
And then, of course, My Girl by The Temptations. Kind of goes without saying. So moving away from the live action movies, we had a nomination for an animated movie that really kind of came out of left field. And it's basically, this soundtrack, honestly, was basically the late 90s, early 2000s, just throwing up all over the place. And it's the Digimon the Movie soundtrack. Now, this is a movie that I barely knew existed. But looking at the soundtrack, you do have a lot of those pop hits from that era. Among them is All Star by Smash Mouth.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
The Rockefeller Skank by Fatboy Slim.
Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul.
1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Threw your arms in the air and said you're crazy. 5 days since you tackled me. I still got the red burns on both my knees. It's been 3 days since the afternoon. You realize it's not my fault, but a moment too soon. Yesterday you'd forgiven me, and now I'll sit back and wait till you say you're sorry.
And the impression that I get with the Mighty Mighty Boss Stones makes this soundtrack. So the next two nominations are actually from Greg Cameron, who you've heard on this podcast before talking sports, but he also has a lot of music knowledge as well and was happy to share that with me. Now, the first of these movies especially is a totally forgettable Adam Sandler movie. He had a run of those for a while there. But the soundtrack, if you are into rock, is definitely up your alley. A few of the songs on there, we've got Pardon Me by Incubus.
So pardon me while I burst into flames. I've had enough of the world and its people's mindless caves. So pardon me while I burn and rise above the flame. Pardon me, I'll never be the same.
There's Change by the Deftones. Linkin Park's on there with Points of Authority. Superman 5000 has When the Worlds Collide.
Now this is what it's like when worlds collide. You ready to go? Cause I'm ready to go. What you gonna do, baby, baby? You going with me? Cause I'm going with you. That's the end of all time.
By the way, that song is really good if you're at a really hard part in your workout. And there's also Stupefied by Disturbed.
See, but I don't get it. Don't you think maybe we can put it on credit? Don't you think I can take it, jump another minute? I can stupefy. It's all the same, you say. Living it, but I don't get it. Don't you think maybe we can put it on credit? Don't you think I can take it, jump another minute? I can stupefy. I can stupefy.
Greg also nominated Armageddon, which, I mean, when the soundtrack is that heavy with Aerosmith, you really can't go wrong. Even though the song that's most associated with that movie really hasn't aged all that well. And that's, of course, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Don't wanna close my eyes. I don't wanna fall asleep 'cause I miss you, baby. And I don't wanna miss a thing. 'Cause even when I dream of you, the sweetest dream would never do. I'd still miss you, baby. And I don't wanna miss a thing.
Now, Aerosmith is also on there with a couple of their more well-known hits. Sweet Emotion is on there.
Talk about things that nobody cares.
And also their cover of the Beatles' Come Together.
I know you, you know me. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me.
They also have another song on there that I believe is called What Kind of Love Are You On, which isn't a terrific song, so I didn't include it on this. But in addition to those, there are some other great classic rock tunes on there. You've got LaGrange by ZZ Top.
I'm racing. Well, here it's fine if you got the time and the chance to get yourself in. And here is time almost every night. But now I might be mistaken.
And you've got Roll Me Away by Bob Seger.
Roll me away, won't you roll me away tonight? I too am lost, I feel double crossed. Now I'm sick of what's wrong and what's right. We never even said a word, we just walked out and got on that bank. And we rolled. And we rolled clean out of sight.
Now remember, I'm not giving you every song that's on these soundtracks. I'm just kind of giving you a taste of the soundtrack so that you can go back and take a listen to it and either say, oh yeah, that is really good, or say, what the heck are these people thinking? So we're going to move on to a couple of my nominations, choices for me. The first one is a totally mediocre Nick Cage and Meg Ryan movie called City of Angels. The redeeming part of that movie is actually Andre Braugher, who has an actually really legitimately good performance amidst a bunch of mediocre acting from people who are clearly there for a paycheck. But along with that album came one of my favorite songs of all time from one of my favorite bands of all time, and that's Iris from the Goo Goo Dolls.
And I don't want to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd
Iris is the most memorable song on that album, but you've also got a pretty interesting and kind of haunting song from Alanis Morissette called Uninvited. And of course, you also have Sarah McLachlan's Angel, which of course now is just associated with sad commercials about animals and things like that. So remember that song had a real place on the radio and in pop culture at the time that it came out. And try not to get too wrapped up in the sad puppies staring at you in the screen.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear.
A couple of low-key hits in here are Red House by Jimi Hendrix.
There's a red house over yonder. That's where my baby stays.
And also, Paula Cole is in there with Feelin' Love.
You make me feel love, 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 love. You make me feel love,
Now, another one that I had that I was a little surprised didn't get a nomination from anybody out there was the Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack. Especially for people of a certain age, there's a lot of music in here that speaks to people of that generation. Now, you've got songs like Graduate by Third Eye Blind.
When the sun live on long after we do. When the sun live on. Can I graduate? Can I look at faces that I meet? Can I get my plug gas off the street? I've been living on for so long.
Can't Get Enough of You Baby by Smash Mouth.
I can't get enough of you, baby. I can't get enough of you, baby. Yes, it's true. Baby, yes, it's true.
Run DMC makes an appearance with Tricky.
It's tricky to rock around. That's right, on time is tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky to rock around. That's right, on time is tricky. Tricky.
One of Blink-182's early hits, Damn It, is on the list. Hopefully that doesn't affect my non-explicit status for this podcast.
Now, and it's happened once again. I'll turn to a friend, someone that understands, sees through the master plan. But everybody's gone, and I've been here for too long to face this on my own. Well, I guess this is growing up.
There are also some songs that aren't on the official soundtrack that appear in the movie that are worth noting. One of them is a sneaky favorite of mine, and that's Six Underground by the Sneaker Pimps.
I've got a head full of drought down here, so far off losing out. Round here, overground. Watch this space, I'm open to fall
So in my last nomination is another one that I'm a little surprised that nobody else came to me with, and that's the soundtrack for the movie Singles. You start that one off right off the bat with Alice in Chains and Wood. Then there's also Pearl Jam on there with Breath. You've got Chris Cornell in Seasons. And the Screaming Trees with I Nearly Lost You. I mean, that seems like a really strong lineup, and I'm really shocked that nobody came through with that, especially people around my age. So moving on now to some of the original songs, you guys had some interesting picks here too. We're going to start off with a song from a soundtrack where the entire soundtrack was nominated, but being unfamiliar with it, I took a listen to it, and man, I just could not in good conscience put the entire soundtrack on this list as a good soundtrack. It was actually kind of painful to listen to. And that was the soundtrack to Streets of Fire. But with the majority of the soundtrack just being a dumpster fire, I will give you this one. It's I Can Dream About You by Dan Hartman. Now, the next song on this list is one that's associated with one of the greatest low-key cameos in a movie ever, and that was Matt Damon in Eurotrip. The song, of course, is Scotty Doesn't Know by Lustra.
Scotty doesn't know, Scotty doesn't know. Don't tell Scotty, 'cause Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty, we'll put on a show. Everyone will go. Scotty doesn't know, Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know.
It was hard finding a portion of that song that I was confident I'd be able to keep my non-explicit rating for this podcast. But moving on, so another movie that was put on this list by a coworker was actually Aragon, which is a movie that I had never even heard of before. And he said that really the movie was terrible, but the end credits song by Avril Lavigne was really strong. And so here's that song, Keep Holding On. Now, another soundtrack where the entire soundtrack was nominated was the Godzilla soundtrack from the 1998 movie. This was actually nominated by Greg Cameron, and I told him that I could not in good conscience put that on the list because Puff Daddy's song in that soundtrack is just so objectively bad. He did contend, however, that this song was really strong, and so I agreed with that and I put it on the list. It's A320 by the Foo Fighters.
I look out and on the ground, really don't believe it. Gravity can pull me from this height. One day we'll come crashing down. What will I do? Never had a chance to say goodbye.
And the last one that you guys nominated, this song actually earned a Grammy Award. And again, this was one of those movies that this one song is more memorable than the entire movie. And the movie is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And the song, of course, is Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams.
Look into my eyes, you will see what you mean to me. Such a heart, such a soul. And when you find me there, you'll search no more. Don't tell me it's not worth trying for. You can't tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you.
Moving on to my picks now. And the first one, some people may not like this because it does have such a place in American pop culture, but I'm calling out Rocky 3 for what it is, and that is just a mediocre movie. But with that, we got Eye of the Tiger by Survivor.
It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger.
So another movie that some people might contend is better than I consider it is Above the Rim. But there's some great music on that soundtrack, but one really stands out above the rest, and that's Regulate by Warren G and Nate Dogg.
It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume some skirts for the E, so I could get some phones. Rolling in my ride, chilling all alone.
Just hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. Seen a car full of girls, ain't no need to tweak. All of you search know what's up with 213.
So I hooked a left on 21 and Lewis. Some brothers shooting dice, so I said, let's do this. I jumped out the ride and said, what's up? Some brothers pulled some gas, so I said,
A favorite song of mine comes off of the animated Disney movie Treasure Planet, and that's the song written by John Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls, I'm Still Here. And this last one really shouldn't need any introduction. I'm just going to let it breathe a little bit. And of course, if you need an actual introduction to that one, it's the Duel of the Fates from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Episode 1 was your very definition of a mediocre movie. But John Williams was not going to let the music be mediocre. The whole soundtrack is great, but that song in that scene in particular is just chef's kiss. So that pretty much wraps this list. What do you think? Did we hit it all? Are there some that you disagree with that are just trash songs that shouldn't be on this list? Are there songs or soundtracks that we forgot about that we really need to add to this list? Let me know. Contact me on the Mazza's Musings podcast Facebook page. You can reach me at Mazza's Musings on X. That's Twitter. You can shoot me an email at mazzasmusings@gmail.com. You can also find our website, mazzasmusings.wordpress.com. And these are all ways that you can give your feedback on what you think of our list of songs, what needs to be added, what needs to be tossed. And I can't wait to hear from you and hear some of the feedback from this. Well, like I said, this was an interesting and different kind of episode from some of the other episodes that we've done. And really, it required much more in terms of production for me than it did actually recording. So thank you for bearing with me through some of the technical things that I was learning about on the fly here. And thank you also for participating. I'm really grateful for the amount of participation that I had from the public on this. This is the kind of thing that I want to continue to do to engage the public, to engage the listeners in fun ways. And the way that you guys kind of responded to this illustrates that I'm resonating in some way with what I'm trying to do here, which is just provide a little bit of fun, a little bit of levity. So thank you again, and I appreciate that. As I've mentioned in the past, you can always find this podcast and other podcasts on our website, mazzasmusings.wordpress.com. You can also find us on Facebook at the Mazza's Musings Podcast. You can reach out to me directly on Twitter, otherwise known as X, at Mazza's Musings. You can also reach out to me directly via email, which is mazzasmusings@gmail.com. All of these are great ways to get a hold of me, to learn more about the podcast, to hear past episodes, to reach out to me with new topics or opportunities to collaborate. I'd love to hear it all. In the meantime, as always, thank you very much for listening. Have a great weekend and a great week.